For 3 years, Dr. Lyra Castellan attended the monthly mating ceremonies at the Shadow Crown Palace, watching Alpha King Darius Ravencrest, desperately trying to prove she was his twin flame, while she documented every interaction as evidence that mate bonds were nothing but primitive superstition. She never imagined that her academic skepticism was the only thing keeping an ancient blood curse at bay, or that the night she finally let him touch her would doom them both. This is the story of a woman who didn't believe in destiny, an alpha who waited for her anyway, and the price they paid when science collided with magic. Dr. Lyra Castellan stood in the marble observatory of the Shadow Crown Palace, adjusting her recording device one final time. Outside, the full moon cast silver shadows across the mountain kingdom of Shadowmere, but she barely noticed. Tonight marked the 36th monthly ceremony, 3 full years of documenting what she considered the most persistent delusion in werewolf society. Ready to record attempt number 36. She spoke into the device, her voice clinical and detached. Subject continues to claim, "I am his twin flame," despite zero empirical evidence supporting the existence of such bonds. Pined. Behind her, she heard footsteps measured, powerful, unmistakably his. Her wolf stirred slightly, a reaction she'd learned to suppress and catalog as mere biological response to an alpha's presence. "You came," Darius said softly, and she hated how those 2 words carried such weight, such hope. "Power our agreement," Lyra replied without turning around, keeping her voice professionally neutral. "You provide funding for my research into debunking mate mythology, and I attend these ceremonies as your test subject." She finally faced him, and as always, had to steel herself against the impact. Darius Ravencrest wasn't just any alpha. He ruled the largest pack territory in North America. At 6.5 feet, with storm gray eyes and midnight black hair, he commanded attention. But it was the way he looked at her like she was the answer to every prayer he'd never dared speak that she found most unsettling. "It's not about the research anymore, Lyra." He stepped closer, careful to maintain the 3-foot distance she'd mandated. "When will you stop pretending you don't feel it too?" "Feel what, exactly?" She clicked her pen, notepad ready. "Increased heart rate? Pupil dilation? These are standard physiological responses to proximity with a powerful alpha, nothing supernatural about it." His jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath the skin. 3 years, Lyra. 3 years I've proven my devotion. No other she-wolves. No distractions. Just waiting for you to accept what we are to each other. "What you've proven," Lyra said, jotting down notes, "is that you're experiencing confirmation bias. You've decided I'm your mate, so you interpret every interaction through that lens." Pied. "Then explain this," he challenged, his control slipping just enough for his eyes to flash gold. "Why does every other she-wolf's touch feel like ice? Why do I wake up at exactly 3 a.m. every night, reaching for someone who's never been in my bed? Why does my wolf howl for you?" Lyra's pen stilled for just a moment. She'd heard similar accounts from other claimed mates, always the same dramatic language, the same inexplicable symptoms. Mass hysteria, she'd concluded, shared cultural delusion, psychosomatic responses, she said firmly. "You've convinced yourself so thoroughly that your body manifests physical symptoms." The silence stretched between them, heavy with 3 years of this same dance. Then, Darius did something new. He laughed, bitter and tired. "You know what the cruelest part is?" He moved to the window, staring out at his kingdom. "Everyone thinks I'm pathetic. The great Alpha King, pining for a woman who attends ceremonies with a clipboard. They whisper about finding me a chosen mate, someone who actually wants the crown." "Then choose someone," Lyra said, hating how her wolf snarled at the suggestion. "I've told you repeatedly I don't believe in mates. I don't want a throne. And I certainly don't want to be defined by some mystical bond I never asked for." "I can't," he said simply, still facing the window. "Trust me, I've tried to want someone else, anyone else, but my wolf recognizes only you." As he spoke, Lyra noticed something she'd never seen before. his hands trembling slightly where they gripped the windowsill. The great Alpha King, shaking. The next morning, Lyra sat in the palace's grand dining hall, surrounded by visiting pack leaders for the quarterly Alliance summit. She'd tried to skip breakfast, but Beta Alexei had insisted her absence would be politically noticed. Dr. Castellan. Luna Sabine of the Crimson Ridge Pack smiled with too many teeth. How fascinating that you're still here. Powers. Most unmated she-wolves would have moved on by now. Lyra didn't look up from her coffee. I'm here for my research, Luna Sabine. The king graciously funds my work. Research. The woman laughed, a tinkling sound that grated. Is that what we're calling it? 3 years of attending mating ceremonies, and you still deny your wolf? I deny nothing that actually exists, Lyra replied evenly. I simply require evidence before accepting supernatural claims. Across the table, she noticed Alpha Garrett from the Storm Valley pack lean forward. Perhaps the good doctor needs a different alpha to convince her. Not everyone is impressed by a crown. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Lyra didn't need to look to know Darius had entered. Alpha Garrett. Darius's voice was dangerously soft. Are you suggesting something? Merely that the lady doesn't seem responsive to your approach, Garrett smirked. In my pack, we have ways of awakening a she-wolf's true nature. The sound that came from Darius's throat wasn't entirely human. Several wolves submitted instantly, necks bared. But Garrett held his ground, foolish or brave. Enough. Lyra stood, exhausted by the testosterone. Alpha Garrett, I'm not interested. Your Majesty, stop growling. This is exactly the kind of primitive behavior that proves mate bonds are just glorified territorial instincts. She left before anyone could respond, but not before catching Darius's expression raw hurt, quickly masked by royal indifference. Later that afternoon, Lyra's younger sister Mira cornered her in the palace library. You're going to lose him, Mira said without preamble. She was everything Lyra wasn't: romantic, impulsive, a true believer in mate bonds, despite being unmated herself. There's nothing to lose, Lyra replied, not looking up from her research notes. We're not together. The council is pressuring him to take a chosen mate. Mira persisted. Princess Serena of the Silver Lakes pack has been suggested. She's beautiful, willing, and actually wants to be queen. Persettle. Something cold settled in Lyra's stomach, but she pushed it down. Good. He should. You don't mean that. I do. Lyra finally met her sister's eyes. Mira, I've documented over 200 cases of supposed mate bonds. You know what I've found? Elevated hormones, psychological dependency, and confirmation bias. Nothing that can't be explained by science. And and what about the rejected mates who died? Mira challenged. The ones who physically couldn't survive without their other half? Extreme stress response leading to organ failure. Broken heart syndrome is documented in human medicine too. Most werewolf stories begin with power and dominance, but Xiomara's stories. Xiomara's stories. Mira pulled out a small velvet box. This was Mother's, she said quietly, revealing an ancient silver pendant. She wore it when she met Father, when she knew. Mother also believed in forest spirits and moon blessings, Lyra said gently. Just because she loved Father doesn't mean it was fate. Wear it? Mira pressed. Just for one ceremony. What could it hurt? Before Lyra could refuse, her assistant burst in. Doctor, you need to see this. She handed Lyra a medical tablet showing brain scans. These are from Alpha King Darius's latest physical. Look at his neural patterns. Lyra studied the images, her clinical mind immediately catching the anomalies. These stress markers, they're off the charts. And this activity in the hypothalamus, it's killing him, her assistant said bluntly. Slowly but measurably, his wolf is literally destroying his human side from within. That's impossible, Lyra breathed, but the data was clear. Rejection doesn't cause physical degradation. It can't. Unless, Mira said quietly, mate bonds are real, and you're killing the Alpha King by denying yours. The Spring Moon Festival transformed the Shadow Crown Palace into something from a fairy tale. Thousands of lights twinkled in the gardens, and wolves from every major pack in North America had gathered for the celebration. Lyra had tried to stay in her laboratory, but Beta Alexei had made it clear her absence would be considered a political insult. So she stood at the edge of the ballroom, wearing the simplest dress she owned, a deep blue that Mira had insisted brought out, her eyes clutching a glass of wine she hadn't touched. Fascinating, isn't it? A smooth voice beside her made her turn. How they all pretend this is about unity, when it's really about power. The man was handsome in a sharp, almost dangerous way. Pale silver eyes, platinum blonde hair, and something about his scent that seemed wrong somehow. Not wolf, but not human either. I don't believe we've met, Lyra said carefully. Dimitri Whitethorn. He offered his hand. I'm what you might call a specialist in supernatural bonds. I've read your research, Dr. Castellan. Brilliant work. You have? She couldn't hide her surprise. Most of the supernatural community dismissed her studies. Oh yes. Your hypothesis about mate bonds being psychosomatic rather than magical? Groundbreaking. He smiled, and something about it made her wolf whimper. I'd love to discuss it further. Perhaps somewhere quieter? Before she could respond, he was leading her toward the moonlit terrace, his hand barely touching her elbow. She should have protested, but finally, someone who understood her work, who didn't look at her with pity or frustration. On the dance floor, she caught a glimpse of Darius dancing with Princess Serena, all silver silk and tinkling laughter. Something twisted in her chest, but she pushed it down. This was what she wanted, what needed to happen. You know, Dimitri said once they were alone on the terrace, there are ways to break a mate bond. Permanently. Lyra's attention snapped to him. That's impossible. According to folklore. Folklore is often wrong. He moved closer, and she noticed his eyes weren't reflecting the moonlight the way they should. I could free you. No more monthly ceremonies. No more alpha hovering. You could pursue your research without distraction. How? The word escaped before she could stop it. A simple ritual. You'd need to let me touch your wolf's essence, just for a moment. Break the connection at its source. His fingers ghosted over her wrist. You don't believe in the bond anyway. What harm could it do? In fact. Warning bells screamed in her mind, but behind them, through the ballroom windows, she could see Darius laughing at something Princess Serena said. The princess's hand was on his arm. Proprietary. And several council members were nodding approvingly. Lyra began. Dr. Castellan. The voice cut through the night like a blade. Darius stood in the doorway, and the look on his face was nothing she'd seen before. Not hurt, not anger, pure primal rage. Your Majesty. Dimitri smiled, and Lyra realized with cold certainty that he'd wanted Darius to find them. I was just discussing the doctor's fascinating research. You will remove your hand from her person, Darius said, each word precise and deadly, or I will remove it from your body. Such violence, Dimitri tesked, but he stepped back. And here I thought you were civilized. Tell me, how does it feel knowing your supposed mate would rather risk her soul than accept your bond? Darius moved so fast, Lyra barely saw it. One moment Dimitri was smirking. The next he was pinned against the stone balustrade, Darius's hand around his throat. You're a soul thief, Darius snarled, his wolf bleeding through. I can smell the stolen essence on you. Dimitri laughed, the sound gurgling through Darius's grip. Clever wolf, but I only take what's freely given. Ask your mate, wasn't she about to give hers willingly? Stop it. Lyra stepped forward. Darius, let him go. You're causing a scene. Through the windows, she could see the entire ballroom had gone still, everyone watching. Princess Serena looked delighted. A scene? Darius's voice was barely human now. You were about to let this parasite destroy your wolf, and you're worried about a scene? I was having a conversation, Lyra said coldly. Which is more than you've done lately, being so busy with Princess Serena. Something flickered in Darius's eyes, surprise, then understanding, then something that looked almost like hope. Jealous, Doctor? He asked, still holding Dmitri but his attention fully on her. Don't be ridiculous, she snapped, but her wolf was practically purring at his attention. I don't get jealous over someone who isn't mine. Then you won't mind if I accept Serena's proposal, he said, studying her face. The council thinks a spring wedding would be perfect. The words hit her like a physical blow. Around Dimitri's throat, Darius's hand loosened slightly. Do whatever you want, Lyra managed, though her voice came out rougher than intended. As I've said repeatedly, I don't believe in... Dmitri moved, slipping from Darius's loosened grip and pressing something cold and sharp against Lyra's throat. A blade that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Enough games, the soul thief hissed. Give me what I came for, or I'll take it anyway. Darius roared, the sound shaking the very foundations of the palace. But he froze when Dmitri pressed the blade harder, drawing a single drop of blood. Interesting, Dmitri murmured. The mate bond you don't believe in is the only thing keeping him from tearing me apart. One might almost think it was real. The blade at Lyra's throat hummed with unnatural cold, but she forced herself to remain still, analytical even now. A soul-reaping blade. She observed, voice steady, despite her racing heart. Theoretical at best. No peer-reviewed evidence of their existence. Dmitri laughed. Always the scientist, even with death at your throat. Not as— Let her go, Darius commanded, his entire body vibrating with barely contained violence. Your quarrel is with me. Is it? Dmitri pressed the blade just enough to draw another drop of blood. I came here for a skeptic's soul. They're particularly potent, you know. All that denial makes them wonderfully concentrated when finally harvested. You're insane, Lyra said flatly. Perhaps, but you were ready to let me break your bond, weren't you? Tell me, Doctor, what does that say about your precious logic? What? Before she could answer, Darius moved not toward Dmitri, but dropping to his knees. Please, he said, and the great Alpha King bowing broke something in Lyra's chest. Take me instead, my soul, my wolf, whatever you want. Just don't hurt her. Darius, get up! Lyra snapped, mortified. Don't be ridiculous. You think I care about pride right now? He looked up at her, and his eyes were pure gold, pure truth. You are everything, Lyra. Everything. I would kneel before 1,000 soul thieves if it kept you safe. The blade trembled against her throat as Dmitri considered. The great Alpha's soul would be quite the prize. The great Alpha's soul. No. The word tore from Lyra's throat. Her wolf, usually so controlled, surged forward with such force that Dmitri actually stepped back in surprise. You will not touch him. Fascinating, Dmitri murmured. The skeptic shows her teeth when her mate is threatened. Pyres, he's not my die. But the words died as Darius stood slowly, hope blazing across his face. Say it again, he breathed. Tell him he can't have me. This is emotional manipulation, Lyra said desperately. Basic protective instincts triggered by... The blade pressed harder. Choose, Doctor. Admit the bond exists and I leave empty-handed soul thieves can't touch a claimed mate pair. Or maintain your denial. And I take the Alpha's soul as he so generously offered. The ballroom beyond the windows had erupted into chaos, guards rushing toward them, but Dmitri whispered something and the glass doors sealed with ice. Tick-tock, he sang. What will it be? Your scientific principles or his life? Lyra looked at Darius, saw him preparing to sacrifice himself without hesitation, and something inside her finally, irrevocably shattered. Fine, she gasped. The bond is real. He's my mate. Is that what you want to hear? Say it like you mean it, Dmitri pressed. He's mine, Lyra snarled, and her wolf emerged fully for the first time in years. My mate, my alpha, mine, people say. And if you don't remove that blade from my throat, I will tear you apart, soul thief or not. The change was instant. Power blazed between her and Darius. Visible even to human eyes, a rope of pure golden light connecting them. Dmitri hissed and jerked back as if burned. A true bond, he spat, the blade clattering to the ground. Claimed at last, he smiled coldly. Enjoy it while you can, Doctor. True bonds come with a price, they always do. He vanished like smoke, just as the guards burst through the ice-sealed doors. The aftermath was chaos. Guards swarmed the terrace, healers fussed over the thin cut on Lyra's throat, and the entire court buzzed with the scandal. But Lyra heard none of it. She stood frozen, staring at her hands, where golden light still flickered faintly beneath the skin. Everyone out, Darius commanded, and the authority in his voice cleared the terrace in seconds. Only when they were alone did he approach her carefully, as if she might bolt. Lyra, don't. She backed away, wrapping her arms around herself. What just happened? It was coercion. Fight or flight response. Adrenaline-induced. You called me yours. His voice was soft, wondering. Your wolf claimed me. To save your life. He was going to... She stopped, breathing hard. This doesn't change anything. I still don't believe. You're glowing, Lyra. He gestured to her hands, where the golden light pulsed stronger. We both are. How does your science explain that? She looked down at herself, at the undeniable evidence of something beyond logic, and felt her entire worldview cracking. There has to be an explanation. Bioluminescence, perhaps. Or 3 years, Darius interrupted gently. 3 years I've waited, hoped, never pushing beyond what you were comfortable with. But I can't do this anymore. What do you mean? The council is right. I need an heir. The kingdom needs stability. And you. He turned away. You'll never accept what we are. So I'm releasing you from our research agreement. After tonight, you don't have to come back. The words hit harder than any blade. You're dismissing me? I'm setting you free. He faced her again, and the resignation in his eyes was devastating. That's what you wanted, isn't it? To be free of the crazy alpha who thinks you're his mate? She realized with sudden, sharp clarity that the thought of never seeing him again made her wolf howl in agony. The research isn't complete, Pras. Your research will never be complete because you refuse to accept the evidence in front of you. He moved past her toward the door. I'll make the announcement tomorrow. Princess Serena has already indicated her willingness. You can't just... She grabbed his arm without thinking, and the contact sent electricity through both of them. The golden light blazed brighter. Can't I? He looked down at where she held him, then up at her face. Tell me why I shouldn't, Lyra. Give me one logical scientific reason why I should keep putting myself through this. She opened her mouth, but no words came. How could she explain that the thought of him with another made her physically ill? That wasn't logical. It wasn't scientific. It was... I thought so. He gently pulled free. Goodbye, Dr. Castellan. The door closed behind him with a finality that echoed in her bones. 2 weeks. 2 weeks since Darius had walked away, and Lyra was falling apart in ways that defied every principle she'd ever held. She sat in her laboratory at the university, staring at brain scans her own, taken over the past 14 days. The degradation was undeniable. Neural pathways failing, stress hormones off the charts, cellular damage that shouldn't be possible from mere emotional distress. You look terrible, her assistant said, entering with tea she wouldn't drink and food she wouldn't eat. I'm dying, Lyra said clinically. According to my own data, I have perhaps another week before complete systemic failure. Her assistant set down the tray harder than necessary. Then go to him. With what explanation? That I was wrong? That mate bonds are real? That would invalidate 3 years of research, my entire academic reputation. Your reputation? Her assistant's usual patience finally snapped. Lyra, you're dying, and he's not doing much better. The whole palace is in mourning. He won't eat, won't sleep, won't even see Princess Serena. The council is threatening to invoke emergency protocols. What kind of emergency protocols? The kind where they force him to take a chosen mate for the good of the kingdom. Lyra's wolf snarled weakly. Even dying, the possessive rage was there. A knock interrupted them. Beta Commander Alexei stood in the doorway, his face grim. Dr. Castellan, you need to come immediately. The king, he's requested you. He said he never wanted to see me again. He's not exactly conscious to contradict that order. Alexei's professional mask cracked. Please. He's been in a fever for 3 days. The healers can't break it. He keeps calling for you. Lyra ran. The palace was in chaos when she arrived. Guards lined every corridor, and she could hear the Alpha's roar of pain from 3 floors away. They led her to his chambers, where she found him thrashing on the bed, held down by 6 of his strongest warriors. Everyone out, she commanded, and surprisingly, they obeyed. The moment they were alone, she approached the bed. Darius was burning with fever, his skin almost too hot to touch. But when her fingers brushed his forehead, he stilled instantly. Lyra? His voice was broken, uncertain. You're not real. Another dream. I'm here, she whispered, climbing onto the bed beside him, despite every logical voice in her head screaming against it. I'm real. No, he muttered, eyes still closed. Real Lyra doesn't believe. Doesn't want this. Doesn't want me. Her heart shattered. That's not true. Said goodbye. Had to. Dying anyway. Better clean break. You're not dying, she said fiercely, though her own body was failing just as fast. I won't let you. His eyes opened, fever bright and gold, always so stubborn, even at the end. This isn't the end. She made a decision that went against everything she'd believed for 28 years. Darius, look at me. He focused with effort. You were right, she said, each word feeling like pulling teeth. The bond is real. I feel it. I've always felt it. I was just too scared to admit it. Scared? You're never scared. I'm terrified, she confessed. Of losing control. Of needing someone so much it defies logic. Of wanting something I can't quantify or measure or publish in a peer-reviewed journal. His hand found hers, trembling but certain. You really feel it? Every second of every day for 3 years. Tears she'd never let herself cry finally fell. And these last 2 weeks. Darius, I'm dying without you. Literally, measurably dying. My own research proves it. He laughed weakly. Only you would need empirical evidence of a mate bond while experiencing one. Kiss me, she said suddenly. Please, just once. Before. He didn't let her finish. Despite the fever, despite the weakness, he pulled her down and kissed her with 3 years of desperate longing. The bond exploded between them. Golden light filled the room, so bright the guards outside shouted in alarm. Power raced through Lyra's veins, healing the damage of separation, rewriting her very DNA. She could feel Darius in her mind, her soul, his love, his devotion, his unwavering certainty that she was his everything. When they finally broke apart, the fever was gone. They were both glowing, wrapped in golden light that pulsed with their heartbeats. Mine, Darius growled, and for once, Lyra didn't argue. Yours, she agreed, then added with a small smile. But I'm still publishing a paper about this. The 3 months that followed were everything Lyra had never allowed herself to dream of. Pied. You're documenting us having breakfast? Darius laughed as she pulled out her recording device one morning. This is groundbreaking research, she insisted, though she was fighting a smile. Mated pair behavior in a natural setting. Do you know how few properly documented cases exist? Is that what we're calling this research? He pulled her onto his lap, nuzzling into her neck where his mark sat proudly. Because I can think of better uses for our time. It's 9 in the morning, she protested weakly. You have court in an hour. Court can wait. This new Darius, playful, openly affectionate, completely devoted, still caught her off guard. Gone was the controlled king who had waited 3 years. In his place was an alpha who couldn't go 5 minutes without touching her, who brought her flowers from the garden every morning, who read her research papers and asked genuine questions. You've spoiled him. Beta Alexei complained good-naturedly. Yesterday he postponed a trade negotiation because you were napping and he didn't want to leave. That's ridiculous, Lyra said, though warmth spread through her chest. It's true, Mira added, visiting for the bonding ceremony preparations. The mighty Alpha King, reduced to a lovesick puppy. But Lyra had changed too. Her rigid schedules became flexible. Her clinical distance melted into genuine warmth. She laughed more, worried less, and even attended court functions without her clipboard. I don't recognize myself, she confessed to Darius one night, as they lay intertwined in bed. I do, he said softly. This is who you always were, beneath the fear. I wasn't afraid. She protested automatically. No? Then why did you really fight the bond so hard? She was quiet for a long moment. My parents, she finally admitted. They were true mates. When my father died, my mother. She lasted 3 days, and she just faded away, left me and Mira alone. Darius pulled her closer. That won't happen to us. You can't promise that. I can promise that whatever comes, we'll face it together. He kissed her forehead. No more running, no more denial. Together. She wanted to believe him. But sometimes, late at night, she remembered Dimitri's words. True bonds come with a price. The first sign something was wrong came during the autumn equinox. Lyra was in the garden, collecting samples for a new study on how mate bonds affected botanical preferences. Darius had laughed himself hoarse when she'd proposed it. Darius had laughed himself hoarse, when the world tilted. She grabbed the nearest tree, vision, swimming. Through the bond, she felt Darius's instant alarm. Asterisk Lyra? What's wrong? Asterisk. Asterisk. I don't know. Dizzy spell. It's passing. Asterisk. But he was there in minutes, despite having been in a council meeting across the palace. You're pale, he said, checking her over with gentle hands. When did you last eat? This morning, she stopped. Had she eaten? The days had been blurring lately. We're seeing the healer. Darius. I'm fine. You're not fine. His voice was sharp with fear. Through the bond, I can feel something's wrong. The healer's diagnosis was shocking. You're pregnant. Master Healer Sage announced, then frowned at her readings. But there's something unusual about the energy signature. Unusual how? Darius demanded. The child carries an incredibly powerful magical resonance, almost as if... She trailed off, looking troubled. As if what? Lyra pressed. As if it's been blessed. Or cursed. I can't tell which. That night, Lyra dreamed. She stood in a place that wasn't quite real, all shifting shadows and silver light. Dimitri materialized from the mist, his soul thief beauty terrible in the dreamscape. I told you true bonds come with a price, he said conversationally. Did you think I was being poetic? What did you do? She snarled, hands moving protectively to her still flat stomach. I did nothing. You did this yourself, the moment you finally admitted the bond. He circled her like a predator. You see, skeptics' bonds are special. All that denied power, suddenly released, it creates something unique, plainly. Your child will be born with the gift of absolute truth. It will see through every lie, every deception, every comfortable fiction that holds society together. His smile was cruel. Imagine it. A child who can destroy kingdoms with a word, who can unravel carefully built alliances by simply stating what they see. How long do you think they'll survive? You're lying. Am I? You're the researcher. Haven't you noticed the pattern? Every mated pair where one partner denied the bond for years, check their histories. Check what happened to their children. Lyra woke gasping. Beside her, Darius stirred. Bad dream? She almost told him. Almost. But the words died in her throat. If it was true, if their child was cursed because of her denial, how could she burden him with that? Just pregnancy hormones. She lied, and hated herself for it. The next morning, she slipped away while Darius was in council. She took nothing but her research materials and a few clothes. The note she left was brief. Asterisk. The bond was a mistake. My research proves that what we feel isn't real, just biological imperative magnified by proximity. I need space to complete my work. Don't look for me. Asterisk. Every word was agony to write. Through the bond, she felt his rage when he found it, his disbelief, his desperate pain. She slammed her mental walls shut, though it felt like tearing herself in half. She made it 3 days in a cottage at the edge of the territory, researching frantically for any mention of truth-cursed children. What she found chilled her. They never lived past their 5th birthday, either killed as threats or driven mad by the weight of seeing too much. She was sobbing over an ancient text when the door exploded inward. Darius stood there, magnificent in his fury. He looked wilder than she'd ever seen him unshaven, eyes blazing, clothes torn from running as a wolf. Your research, he snarled, shows the bond isn't real? She lifted her chin, forced herself to meet his eyes. Yes. Liar. He crossed the room in 2 strides. You forget, mate. I can feel you now. Every emotion, every thought you don't guard carefully enough. I know you're lying. What I don't know is why. I'm not. He kissed her, savage and desperate, and through the bond his emotions flooded her rage, hurt, but above all, love so fierce it took her breath away. Tell me, he commanded against her lips. Tell me why you're destroying us. She broke. I'm pregnant, she sobbed. And it's my fault. The baby is cursed because I denied the bond for so long. They'll be born with truth sight, and it will kill them, and it's all because I was too stubborn to believe. Darius went very still. How do you know this? Dimitri. He came to me in a dream, told me about the curse. I researched it. Every documented case ends the same way. Dimitri, Darius said slowly, the soul thief, who had every reason to hurt us, who vanished after failing to steal either of our souls. That Dimitri? The research supports. Show me. She handed him the ancient texts, watched him read with growing incredulity. Lyra, he said finally, these aren't historical records. They're fiction. Fantasy stories, written to entertain. What? No, they were in the restricted section. The restricted fiction section. See this symbol? He pointed to a small mark on the binding. It means creative work, not historical document. Lyra stared at the books, her brilliant mind finally seeing what panic had hidden. Oh gods, I'm an idiot. You're a panicked pregnant woman who got manipulated by a vindictive soul thief. He pulled her into his arms. Our child isn't cursed, love, though they will probably inherit your stubbornness and my temper, which might be curse enough. She laughed through her tears, then hit him. I put us through hell for nothing. Not nothing. You were trying to protect us, even if your methods were insane. He kissed her forehead. No more running? No more running. Deck tonight. But that night, as they lay together in their bed back at the palace, Lyra felt it again, that wrongness the healer had sensed. Something about the baby's energy was different. Not cursed, perhaps, but not normal either, partially right. What if Dimitri was partially right? She whispered. What if denying the bond for so long did affect? Then we'll handle it, Darius said firmly. Together, whatever comes. Through the bond, she felt his certainty, his unwavering commitment, but beneath it, carefully hidden, she sensed his fear too. The pregnancy progressed with alarming speed. What should have taken 9 months seemed to be happening in 6. The healers were baffled. The child is healthy, Master Healer Sage insisted, running her hands over Lyra's swollen belly. Incredibly strong, actually. But the magical signature. It's like nothing we've seen, her assistant added. Not cursed, but ancient, primal. I am Mara's story, and dot a thing would if it is absurd. Lyra exchanged glances with Darius. They'd both been feeling it, the pull of something old and powerful growing inside her. Despite the worry, those months were filled with a desperate kind of joy. Darius barely left her side, and when he had to, the entire palace guard seemed to materialize around her. I can still walk to the library alone, she protested one morning, counting no fewer than 12 guards trying to look inconspicuous. Humor me, Darius said, not looking up from the trade agreements he was reviewing at her side. He'd taken to doing all his work in whatever room she occupied. You're being overprotective. You're carrying our child while mysterious magical signatures make the healers speak in hushed whispers. I'm being exactly protective enough. She wanted to argue, but another wave of dizziness hit. They'd been getting worse, along with dreams she couldn't quite remember, just impressions of silver light and ancient voices. Lyra? Darius was instantly alert, steadying her. Place. I'm fine. The baby's just active today. As if in response, the child kicked hard enough to make her gasp. Very active. That night, she dreamed again. But this time, it wasn't Dimitri who came. The woman was beautiful in an otherworldly way, silver hair that seemed to move without wind, eyes that held stars, skin that glowed with moonlight. Finally, the woman said, I was beginning to think you'd never let your guard down enough for me to reach you. Who are you? I have many names, but you may call me Celine. I'm what you might term a goddess, though that word carries connotations I find limiting. Goddesses aren't real, Lyra said automatically. Celine laughed, the sound like wind chimes. Oh, my dear skeptic. Still denying what's right in front of you? I suppose that's why you were perfect. Perfect for what? To bear my vessel, of course. She gestured to Lyra's stomach. That child carries a fragment of my essence. The first true oracle in 1,000 years. That's impossible. Is it? You denied your mate bond for 3 years, building up incredible magical pressure. When you finally accepted it, all that power had to go somewhere. It created a crack between worlds, just wide enough for me to slip through a blessing. Or curse, depending on your perspective. Why? Lyra's scientist mind was reeling, but she forced herself to focus. Why would you do this? Why? Because the world needs truth speakers, now more than ever. Your child will see through deceptions. Yes. But they'll also have the wisdom to know when and how to reveal those truths. Celine's expression grew serious. But such gifts come with a price. The child will need protectors, powerful ones. Darius and I will be tested. Soon. The goddess began to fade. The soul thief wasn't lying about everything, dear skeptic. True bonds do come with a price. The question is, are you willing to pay it? Lyra woke to find Darius shaking her gently, his face tight with concern. You were glowing, he said. Literally glowing silver. She told him everything. For once, he was the one who looked skeptical. A goddess? I know how it sounds. Like something out of Mira's romance novels. But what if it's real? What if our child is? Then we'll love them exactly as they are. He pulled her close. Oracle, truth-seer, or completely ordinary, they're ours. But they both knew nothing about their child would be ordinary. Labor came during the winter solstice, when the veil between worlds was thinnest. Lyra had been in the library, researching ancient texts about oracles. She'd found 3 references, all terrifying. When the first contraction hit, not gradual, not building immediate, overwhelming, wrong. Darius, she gasped through the bond. Something's wrong. He was there in seconds, but she could barely see him through the pain. This wasn't normal labor. It felt like something was tearing reality apart from inside her. They got her to the healing chambers, just as the sky began to darken unnaturally. Storm clouds gathered from nowhere, swirling directly above the palace. What is this? Master Healer Sage's usual calm was shattered. The energy readings are off the scale. Power. That's when he appeared. Dimitri stepped out of the shadows, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood 3 other figures, beautiful and terrible, with eyes that weren't quite human. Soul thieves, Darius snarled, moving to block them from Lyra. We prefer collectors, Dimitri said smoothly, and we're here for what was promised. Nothing was promised to you, Darius growled. Not to me personally, no, but a deal was made, long before your mate was even born. He produced an ancient scroll, Castellan ancestor, desperate to save her dying child, made a bargain. The firstborn oracle of her line would belong to us. Diomaris. That's impossible, Lyra gasped between contractions. My family has no history of magic? Of course not. The gift skipped generations, waiting for the right circumstances, waiting for a skeptic to deny a true bond long enough to create the perfect conditions. Dimitri smiled coldly. Your 3 years of denial didn't just build power, it activated an ancient bloodline curse. Another contraction hit, and Lyra screamed. Through the windows, lightning struck the palace towers. You can't have our child, Darius said flatly. Then you'll all die. Dimitri shrugged. The birth of an oracle without proper containment will release enough raw magical energy to level this kingdom. Unless, he paused dramatically, you make a new bargain. What kind of bargain? Lyra managed to ask. One of you comes with us, willingly. The other raises the child, who will be bound to serve the light, instead of being claimed by shadow. A fair trade, quote. That's not fair at all, Darius roared. It's better than the alternative. As if to emphasize his point, the walls began to crack. Reality itself, straining under the pressure of the impending birth. Lyra met Darius's eyes. Through their bond, an entire conversation passed in seconds. The love, the fear, the desperate need to protect their child. I'll go, they both said simultaneously. How touching, Dimitri drawled. But only one is needed. Choose quickly, the child comes whether you're ready or not. Another scream tore from Lyra as the baby began to crown. The air itself was glowing, pulsing with each contraction. Me, Darius said firmly. I'm stronger. I can survive whatever. No, Lyra interrupted. It should be me. This is my family's curse. My skepticism that triggered it. Lyra, you're the Alpha King. The kingdom needs you. Our child needs you. Our child needs their mother. The room shook violently. Cracks spread across the ceiling, revealing glimpses of an impossible starry void beyond. Choose, Dimitri commanded, as the other soul thieves began chanting in a language that hurt to hear. That's when Selene appeared. The goddess materialized between them and the soul thieves, her presence immediately calming the chaos. Enough, she said simply, and the soul thieves froze. There is another way. You have no authority here, Dimitri snarled, though he looked uncertain. I have every authority when it comes to my oracle. She turned to Lyra and Darius. The child will be born safely. But yes, a price must be paid for breaking the ancestral curse. Name it, Darius said immediately. Selene's expression was sad but kind. One of you must serve as the oracle's guardian in the spirit realm. Not forever, just until the child comes of age and can control their power. 18 years. 18 years? Lyra's voice broke. Time moves differently there. It will feel like months to you, but the child will grow up with only one parent physically present. I'll go, Darius said. No, I will, Lyra countered. Selene held up a hand. The choice isn't yours to make. The oracle will choose their guardian. The final contraction hit, and Lyra's scream shattered the remaining windows. Light poured from her silver and gold intertwined as their child entered the world. A baby's cry pierced the air, and instantly the chaos stopped. The soul thieves vanished like smoke. The cracks in reality sealed. The storm dissolved. Master Healer. Sage caught the baby with shaking hands. It's a girl. Lyra reached for her daughter with trembling arms. The moment the baby touched her skin, she felt its power beyond comprehension contained in a tiny, perfect form. The baby opened her eyes. They were silver gold, ancient and knowing. Then she reached out one tiny hand toward Darius. She's chosen, Celine said softly. No, Lyra whispered, understanding. Please, not him. I'm sorry, Darius said, tears streaming down his face as he kissed their daughter's forehead. Then Lyra's lips. I love you both so much. Quote, there has to be another way, Lyra begged, but even as she said it, she could feel the pull through the bond. The baby had indeed chosen her guardian. Her name, Darius said urgently. She needs a name before I go. Veritas, Lyra said through her tears. Truth. Perfect. He held them both one last time. Tell her about me. Tell her I loved her more than all the stars. Every day, Lyra promised. Celine placed a gentle hand on Darius's shoulder. It's time. He stood slowly, memorizing their faces. Through the bond, Lyra felt his love, his pain, his determination to protect them. 18 years, he said. I'll count every second. Then he was gone, dissolving into silver light that seemed to sink into baby Veritas's skin, making her glow briefly before settling. The bond didn't break. Lyra could still feel him, distant but present, like a star she could see but never touch. 5 years later, Lyra stood at her study window, watching the moon rise over Shadowmere. Behind her, she heard small footsteps. Veritas, unable to sleep again. Mama, why does the moon look sad tonight? Lyra turned to find her daughter standing in the doorway, silver gold eyes too, knowing for a 5-year-old face. What makes you think it's sad, little star? It misses someone, Veritas said with certainty. The same way you miss Papa. Lyra's heart clenched, but she'd learned to live with the constant ache. Come here, my love. Veritas climbed into her lap, snuggling close. She was small for her age but radiated power that made even ancient alphas submit instinctively. Tell me about Papa again, she requested, as she did every night. Your Papa is the bravest man in all the realms, Lyra began, stroking her daughter's dark hair the exact shade of Darius's. He loved us so much that he became your guardian spirit, watching over you from the other side. Can he see me? Always. Can he hear me? Every word. Veritas was quiet for a moment. Then, that boy in the village lied about his dog being sick. He just didn't want to play with the baker's son. Lyra sighed. The oracle powers were getting stronger. And what did you do? Nothing. Papa told me sometimes people need their lies to feel safe. Lyra froze. Papa told you? Mm-hmm. He talks to me when I sleep. Says he's proud of you for being so strong. Veritas yawned. Says 13 more years. Feels like forever. But he's counting. Tears slipped down Lyra's cheeks. Through the bond, she sent all her love, hoping he could feel it across the realms. Mama, don't cry, Veritas said, patting her cheek with a small hand. Papa says to tell you about the research. What research? The one about breaking guardian bonds early. He says check grandmother's journals, the ones in the false bottom of the trunk. Lyra's heart stopped. Her mother's trunk, she'd never thought to look for a false bottom. That night, after Veritas was asleep, Lyra found them, journals detailing her mother's research into oracle guardianships. And there, in her mother's careful handwriting, a theory about how to break a guardian bond early, if the oracle's power stabilized before 18. Most oracles took the full 18 years, but Veritas was already showing control beyond her years. Hope, dangerous and beautiful, bloomed in Lyra's chest. Hold on, my love, she whispered to the bond. I'm going to bring you home. 3 years later, the ritual circle was perfect years of research and preparation, culminating in this moment. 8-year-old Veritas stood at the center, her power fully controlled, fully realized. Are you sure about this, little star? Lyra asked one final time. Papa's waited long enough, Veritas said firmly. And you've been sad for too long. Beta, Alexei, and Mira stood at the cardinal points, along with Master Healer Sage and, surprisingly, Celine herself, Kai. This is highly irregular, the goddess mused. But then, you always were one to question the rules, weren't you, Dr. Castellan? Some rules need questioning, Lyra replied, making Celine laugh. Begin, the goddess commanded. The ritual was complex, requiring every ounce of Lyra's scientific precision, combined with magical knowledge she'd never thought she'd possess. But as the power built, she felt him, Darius, closer than he'd been in 8 years. Veritas glowed like a small sun, her oracle powers fully unleashed. Papa, she cried joyfully, I can see you. The air split, reality tearing just enough for a figure to step through. Darius stumbled forward, solid and real and present. He looked exactly as he had 8 years ago. The spirit realm had preserved him perfectly. Lyra? He breathed. She ran to him, crashing into his arms with enough force to knock them both down. The bond blazed to full strength, no longer stretched across realms but whole and complete. 8 years, she sobbed into his neck. 8 years without you. I know, love. I counted every second. A small body crashed into them. Papa, you're really here. Darius pulled Veritas into their embrace, tears streaming down his face. My little star, you're so big, so beautiful. I'm the youngest fully realized oracle in history, Veritas informed him proudly. Mama says I get my stubbornness from both of you. Gods help us. Darius laughed, the sound rusty from disuse. Later, after the celebrations, after Veritas had finally fallen asleep between them, I'm never letting either of you go again, she'd declared. Lyra and Darius stood on the balcony, where their story had truly begun. Do you regret it? She asked softly. The price we paid? The price we paid? Never. He pulled her closer. I would pay it again 1,000 times over. Although, he grinned, next time someone offers you a magical bargain, maybe consult your mate first? Next time? She raised an eyebrow. You're assuming I haven't learned my lesson about skepticism? Have you? She considered. I've learned that some things can't be measured or quantified. Some things have to be felt, believed, trusted. My skeptical scientist, converted at last. Reformed skeptic, she corrected. I still require evidence. I just accept a broader range of proof now. Such as? Such as the fact that our daughter can see truth. You spent 8 years in another realm. And I'm madly in love with an alpha king, who waited 3 years for me to accept our bond. Madly in love? His eyes lit up. Completely, irrationally, unscientifically in love. He kissed her then, and through their bond, she felt his joy, his relief, his overwhelming love. No more soul thieves, goddesses, or guardian bonds, he murmured against her lips. Just us. Just us, she agreed, then added with a smile, and our oracle daughter who can detect every lie we tell her. We're doomed, aren't we? Completely. But as they stood there, their daughter safe between them, their bond whole and unbreakable, Lyra knew that some dooms were worth embracing. After all, the best things in life, love, family, and unexpected magic, rarely came with peer-reviewed proof. Sometimes, you just had to believe.